as we said, you just heard us speaking to Arise business analyst Chika Mbona at the end there, asking him for his economic outlook. We're going to be getting a lot of those this week and possibly the next, as a number of firms look at what to expect for Nigeria's economy in this crucial year of 2025 amidst reforms. Sterling Asset Management Trustees Limited, of course, you're seeing the cover there, 2024 macroeconomic review and a 2025 outlook. We're going to be talking as much as we can with respect to this report with Dr. Patrick Ejumedia, who is the head of research, who joins us now. Happy New Year again. Thank you so much for joining us. Good morning to you, Doctor. So look, a lot to get into. See how much we can pack in here. I think your report looks at, I think, the fourth quarter, and is this forecasting 3.78% for the fourth quarter, and which we'll get those reports. That report from the Bureau of Statistics, and we've got the chart there. What underpins that projection for you in terms of that number?
Okay. So first is to know that usually in fourth quarter, it's not usually surprising that we see that amount of growth, not just in Nigeria, across countries where they celebrate the Christmas season. So if you go back history, you see that trajectory coming So basically what drove that growth is to say that usually in fourth quarter, we see increased consumer spending. And basically that goes to entertainment, and that goes to the hospitality sector as well. Then we also see increase in the service sector, usually in the fourth quarter. The banking sector, a lot of activities, transactions taking place in the financial sector. People are doing a lot of transactions. So, and we see entertainment, and we see telecommunication. Yeah. And then we also saw some form of stability in the FX, particularly in the last quarter, December in particular. So what that would do is to, particularly for those who came into Nigeria, will bring some form of fresh investments, or either directly or through whoever they are bringing that money to. So those are the factors that we feel that would have drove the growth. But if you want to now look at it vis-a-vis how we grew from Q3 2023 to Q4, vis-a-vis this growth rate, the last growth rate is bigger than what we're having now.
Okay. Now, what as far as FX stability, going to that, can we expect more stability in 2025? And what would essentially support that? Because I see we got a chart there from your reports. What's going to support stability of FX in 2025 for Nigeria?
Okay. So first, there are a lot of issues. The first is the previous one that we all know, we've been talking about, the online trading platform that the CBN has set up. And the second is the fact that the reserve has also been going up, which gives the ability for the CBN to be able to interfere in the FX market when they feel that it is necessary. Then third is the continuous intervention of the CBN, particularly at those periods that there's usually high demand for FX. Like we're going to see in June, we're going to see in October, and we're going to see maybe in December this year. So during this period, we expect to see some form of intervention of the government. Then, in addition to that, we've seen a lot of construction activities taking place, and those activities are likely to attract FDI, and that will put some form of, stability in the exchange. So we expect to see that stability. Don't forget that the government has also projected that they are doing 1,500 for this year. Yeah. So we expect to see that stability this year.
I'm going to actually get to those forecasts from the government, but you've got a list of triggers that are impacting Nigeria's foreign exchange. And I think one of them lists I think it's the second one, low crude oil production and sales. So is that the most important of all of them?
Well, it depends on how you want to look at it. Yeah. If you look at it in terms of long run or short run or medium term. Yeah. In terms of medium term, then one will be talking about the speculative activities of, people who are speculating are the one driving it. But if we talk in terms of long run, then you may want to take oil production as as the major factor that might bring about that stability in the FX. Because, if you don't produce, you can't earn FX. Yeah. And what we have, since we are not producing manufactured goods, we are only producing our crude oil or our, so we need to see how we can improve it so that we can then see how we can use that to supply the FX.
You've got inflation on that list. And as you know, the government has not forecast, but for 2025, you mentioned the 1,500 naira per dollar that they're looking at for the budget. They've also are targeting 15% inflation, and we, of course, were at 34.6 for November of last year. Tilewa Adebajo, who's the CEO of the CFG Advisor, he was on the morning show this morning, and he essentially says, look, this is not your job. It should be that of the monetary authorities. I want to play that clip from our interview earlier today.
Careful. And then let's put this matter of inflation to rest once and for all. The only body in Nigeria that is responsible for determining inflation and interest rates is the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria. And that is why you see that separation. So while the presidency might desire, and we also do, we desire low inflation, because with low inflation, we can grow the economy. We all do, that's a laudable target. But at the end of the day, it is when the Monetary Policy Committee meets in their next meeting that we will get an idea of what their inflation targeting is. The monetary policy said they were going to target inflation to 24% this year, but because of challenges within the economy, they couldn't get that done. So let's wait for the next MPC meeting and let us understand where the direction is going.
Well, what do you make of that? Because again, you made that point this morning. It's got a lot of people talking. Should the fiscal authorities be making inflation net targets when you have the Monetary Policy Committee of the CBN that is the independent body that should be making those targets? And also, I guess we can also talk about inflation. But first, what do you think about that? What's your reaction?
First is that, I do not completely agree to that.
Okay.
And the reason is simple. The fiscal authority, in their own capacity, can have the vision to want to drive economic based on how they perceive or based on what they think is happening to the economy. So if they feel that the economy is overheated, they can either decide to increase tax or reduce expenditure. And that would also help to drive inflation.
Right.
So if you now say completely it is the tool of the CBN to do that, then it might be wrong.
Okay.
So and that's why people are singing the fact that there must be some level of coordination between both arms of government.
Fantastic. You have got a chart on the impact of inflation on the equities market. I really like this. Well, I think I'm going to skip ahead to the table. There's a table. Yes, perfect. Talk to us about this table. You've got, year-to-date performance for some of the sectors there and the correlation. Just to summarize, what is inflation doing to these different sectors on the Nigerian Stock Exchange?
Now, of course, basically, like we have said, inflation got to as high as 34.6. And by the time December inflation comes out, it's going to get to like 35.
Right.
So basically, what we try to do is to look at the year-to-date performance of this sector and then look at how inflation has affected this sector vis-a-vis plotting the correlation between the index and the correlation numbers and the inflation numbers. So basically, you see that, just like I have said, sectors who have the capacity to shift costs or sectors that are not interest rate sensitive or that are interest rate sensitive appears not to do too well. And that's what you see.
So like consumer goods.
Like consumer goods, like the industrial goods.
Right.
And that's why you see what happened in terms of the oil and gas sector, the insurance sector, the banking sector, you see. So you see that's why you check their year-to-date. You see the year-to-date of those three sectors I just mentioned very high. And you see that of the consumer goods and the industrial goods, a bit down.
I think we have another chart on inflation here. You're actually looking at how to hopefully bring it down. That's it, perfect. So, looking at this chart here, what is your, as far as on the right-hand side of the screen, the factors that will drive inflation? Now, you talk about stability of exchange rates, improved security, cheap interest rate for farmers, CNG. Are all those realistic as far as what we can look at to bring inflation down for 2025?
Yeah, so basically, what we do is to do a forecast.
Yeah.
And usually when you are doing a forecast, there's usually what we call the best case scenario, the normal scenario, and the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So we are taking the best case scenario. And
Right.
the best case scenario is following what the government said they will do in 2025. And these are some of the things that they said they were going to do. Increase security, and so that farmers can go back to farm. Give cheap loans to farmers. Reduce transportation costs through the use of CNG. So if all of these are put in place, we are saying that inflation is likely to come down at the end of 2025 to 26.30.
Which is still higher than the 15% that the government the government is forecasting. All right. Well, look, again, it's a big thing. Okay. Going back to the stock exchange, because we try to get folks to invest. Of course, talk to a financial advisor like you folks at Sterling Asset Management to get their risk assessment and so on. Looking at this 37.65% return that we had in 2024, what's your outlook for the Nigerian Stock Exchange? Do you think we can, I don't know if you want to look into your crystal ball, can we or just generally talk around the factors around it? You think the market can repeat that 2024 performance?
For me, I'm being positive that we'll do better than this.
Better than that?
Yes. And the reason why I'm saying so, look at what we closed 2023 with.
Right.
About 45%.
2023, that was big. Yeah.
And look at 2024. 2024, what actually drove it down is because of the exchange rate policy, the exchange rate and the high interest rates and inflation that actually affected some sectors not to do well, like we said in my previous, talk. But since inflation is likely to be going down, moderating, exchange rate is likely to be stable, we might see the industrial sector and the consumer goods sector coming up.
Okay.
And again, other sectors that have also done well in 2024 might also improve in terms of the insurance sector, in terms of the oil and gas sector. I'm not too sure about the banking, but I know that by the time their full year result comes out in February, we'll begin to see what actually is playing out there. But at least some of these sectors are likely to drive the market higher than what.
So, look, a lot to look forward to this. Okay, so I guess putting everything together that we've talked about, from inflation, exchange rates, impact on the stock market, and so on and so forth, what is your outlook for this year for the Nigerian economy, putting all these factors up?
Okay, so I think we've summarized a lot of them from our discussion. First is to see that some form of stability in the exchange rate. We are going to see that in 2025. Inflation, we've said, is going to moderate, and it's going to get to what we said, 26.30 from our forecast, which is our best case scenario case. Then the equity market that we just talked about, I'm seeing it getting higher than what it closed the markets with last year. So at the end of the year, we might be seeing something close to maybe 40 this year.
Yeah. With what about shocks? Any fear of any headwinds that could derail any of the outlook that you have? It's positive, but we have to always worry about headwinds.
So you can't take away that. You can't take away that. There's first the issue about the Trump administration, that a lot of things that people have been singing that Trump is going to put in place. Yeah. And some of those things has to do with, the rebouncing of inflation if some of those policies, are being put in place. So if that works, we are going to see inflation numbers that is going to scatter the numbers that we are said we are going to be. And don't forget that countries are interdependent of each other. So irrespective, we cannot be on our own to say we are going to do it alone. Right. So it depends. So whatever happens in those global space, the geopolitical space and all that, is likely to also affect us as a country. So those are issues and that can affect,
Fantastic stuff. Dr. Patrick Ejumedia, Head of Research, Sterling Asset Management and Trustees. Thank you for talking to us with your outlook for Nigeria. It's a fascinating year ahead, and we appreciate your insight. We'll have you back because there's lots of reports like the banking sector and so on to talk about. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.